All right, I'm back. I'm going to start putting in some details just in case you need reminding. That's the picture that I'm working on for my iPhone. I'm going to start doing some details. One thing I noticed is this went over a little bit too far because that should be at the halfway mark. So I'm going to just quickly correct it. That was my cadmium red and cobalt blue. Mix that because the cobalt blue kind of grays out the cadmium red a little bit. So put that at the halfway mark. Boom, boom. See, like a lot of people like acrylics because they say that oils take too long to dry, but personally I prefer oils because oils are so forgiving. Oils, you can do whatever you want with oils, and yeah, you can do whatever you want with oil. So I like to do my blacks. You'll notice on my palette that I showed you earlier, I do not use black because black never occurs in nature. Yeah, so like it's never actually black. So what I use is alizarin crimson and phthalo blue, which is actually a really deep purple, which works for black. Sometimes I will gray that out, or usually I'll gray that out with a little bit of cadmium yellow. So it's a little bit, not quite purple. It's a much more natural black than what you'd get from a tube. A tube would just not look right. So there is the top of that one building. Put that in. Now it does, see the underpainting does come through a little bit. Personally, I like that because teacher in college hated, will always talk about, one of the things that she hated, and she'd always talk about it, was you can always tell when colors are just straight from the tube. And I found that one thing that the underpainting does is it helps me avoid that. So, so that's 3, so do boom. Put some more, mix that, mix. Let's see, this goes boom. And see, I'm still not really worried about the details being super on point yet because I don't. It's slowly, as I work into this painting, I will get more details, but I'm not quite there yet. And this, put that, see, I can kind of blend that top right there to get boom, 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 boom. Blend that in, get the top of that building, and then this goes down like that, and then that goes down like that. Make sure I get the angles right. So just kind of using oils, what oils are really good at, and put that down. Grabbing another brush. That brush I was just using as a flat. I'm going to use a small round for this next part because on the, you know what, I'm not even going to show you because that's, anyway, there's some more of this brick color that comes down on the side here. Boom. boom, and then this goes boo, put some cat yellow, or put some Naples yellow in there, get it that real kind of light, oops, boop, erase it. Now, one thing, this brush is pretty stiff. I have different, of stiffer brushes, and I have softer brushes. Now, I found the softer brushes are really good for blending in situations like this, where you don't want the brush strokes to show up so readily. And this is just a dry brush. I'm just working on everything that I already have down there. Get that top of that building. See, so there's some windows here. The windows look like they are really pretty black. I think it's more of a blue-black than the purple, the more purple that I've been working with. So, the other thing is, there's so many different types of black anyway, but anyway, so I'm going to put the windows in. I think, you know, my style, I've been trying to do an artist statement for a while, and it's really hard to understand, really hard to explain, because my style is, I'm someone who has an awful lot of skill, not a lot of patience, but I know what I can get away with. So, put some windows in. Let's see. There's some there's 2 sets of windows here, so boom. Put those, maybe they'll be wrong. If they're wrong, I can always come back and correct it later. Get that. Now, anyone who's familiar with perspective, you know that the lines are going to be steeper there because your vanishing point would be actually over here. However, I'm working from a photograph. It's pretty easy to get that. They hated us working from photographs in school, but artistically, it does not bother me that I do, because I have put a lot of thought into that, actually. One, there's a lot of realist painters, mid-century, who did work from photographs, especially, you know, photorealism, but not even just photorealism. These ones down here look a little bit longer, but those windows would also be closer. Also, like, we experience our world through photographs, like, so much. So many people, you know, we go places, we take photographs, we, like, and yeah, with the photograph never captures what things actually look like, but we, like, experience our just world through photographs so much that it's almost, in a sense, closer to how we experience things to do it in a photograph, if that makes any sense. So I got the windows in. I'm gonna work, because this is a little bit, this goes down. Good. Boom. Boom. All right. Now, I want to get that darker. So if I want to get darker, I just mix more black, which phthalo blue, alizarin crimson. So I just load my brush up so it's more intense, if you look at it, there was like really, really dark down the middle. This is one of my stiffer brushes because I wanted to get that really showing. I'm going to switch to a smaller round brush, actually. Smaller, stiff round brush. See, actually, I keep saying that I'm using a flat brush. I'm actually not using a flat brush. I'm using a bright brush. And the difference between bright and flat is that bright is going to be a little bit shorter than flat. Flat's like a longer bristles, and flat is really good. See how that's so much more blue there? Don't know if that's actually accurate. I think this is almost more reddish. So in that case, what I wanted, when I wanted to brown out this technically deep purple that I made, but this the cadmium, the alizarin crimson and cobalt blue, I will add cadmium red to it because cadmium red is more, or cadmium red medium technically. Cadmium red is going to be more of a warm red, whereas alizarin crimson is more of a cool red. And when you mix the warm and the cool together, it kind of browns out a little bit, which you're probably not even seeing too much on this. So, got that in. Now I need to take that white up. Looks really white on the photo that I'm working from. Thing about white is just like black. White never actually happens in nature. And you, like, if you look at a white building, if you paint a building white with the with all the reflections and everything, it's not actually going to be white. Like, I didn't really put a lot of effort into these clouds here, like I normally do, because it's such a small space of sky there. But my clouds will actually, the whites will be purple and yellow and blues and browns. Not brown so much. Brown would be my gray. But all right, so that looks better now. I do have that one little mark there, which is fine actually, because these windows have little, looks like window, I don't know, ledges over them. Boo, put some boo. So I'm going to try to keep talking. It's kind of hard to talk when I'm trying to concentrate too. This is an interesting challenge. But that, the nice thing about working from a phone is that I can enlarge the canvas when I need to. So, where was, wash it. I do occasionally actually rinse my brushes out when I really need to. Doesn't actually happen much, but if I like needed a really pure intense white, which I don't right now, I would probably wash the brush out, but I don't. So I'm just going to keep. You'll notice that I'm really working back and forth till I get it right. But I have found in drawings and paintings they turn out better. They turn out better when you don't get it right the first time. And I don't know. I guess the process ends up showing a little bit more, and you end up getting much more interesting things done with your brushwork and everything. So I don't worry about getting things right, usually right off the bat. And this is such a small one, and you know what? Maybe I'm feeling more expressive today. That's fine. All right. Let's see. I think this one, maybe this window goes kind of in like that. Let's see. There's one. I was reading one American artist. I wish I could recall names when it matters. Anyway, it's always like, use a bigger brush than you think you need to use, which I'm using a bigger brush than what most people probably would use right now. That's fine, because it's a matter of working back and forth until you get it right. All right, step back, see how that looks. All right, now, I'm not going to go in for those details yet. I'm going to resist that temptation. I need another stiff flat brush to work on this brick, kind of thinner one. Boo. Yep. Get that brick. Now I'm going to worry about the color a little bit more. So I did it. I blocked it in. It was Cad Red medium, Cobalt Blue, and Naples Yellow. Kind of got that color. However, if you look on it, look at the bricks, it's not really one uniform color. And a lot of the darker places will be like maybe like a little bit more, maybe even some of the alizarin crimson, cobalt blue, maybe more. So I'm mixing some more cobalt blue into the Cad Red, which gives ends up being a lot more gray, because so I'm going to put that kind of here. For this one, I like the stiff brush, especially with brick, because it's easier to get the kind of sense of the ununiformness. That's not even a word, is it? And then it gets kind of lighter over here, so I'm going to do a lot more of the Naples Yellow, so it's almost just pure Naples Yellow here. Make sure I get my angle right. So this angle should be more like that. Don't need to worry about that there yet. And then kind of gets that's also the beauty of working, putting in the base layer, because then you add this stuff and you just kind of punch it in there, and it all ends up working the way it should, because it always works out. I mean, I had a professor once who always would say that you got to make 1,000 bad paintings before you start making good paintings, and I disagree with him, because personally I think, especially with oil, you really should just, your painting's not finished if you don't like it. You need to just keep working on it, get frustrated, keep choosing subjects that will frustrate you, because if you're not getting frustrated with what you're painting, you're not really growing and you're not really learning anything. Which, I don't know, I don't get frustrated so much anymore, but I do like it when get aspects of a painting that I have to struggle with, and I kind of like to put myself in that position where I will struggle, because it turns out better. So, like, use the bigger brush, put things in haphazardly. So I'm putting this white here, white. You know, put like the underpainting that I did, where I really don't think too much about it, because it gives me something to push against when I'm working, and that's what makes a ultimately that's what makes a painting interesting, is when you have something to push against. Now this angle should actually be more like that. Beautiful thing about doing buildings is your angles don't have to be perfect, because people aren't going to notice. I mean, buildings. When you work with people, you need to be a lot more. People are animals. You need to be a lot more conscientious about getting everything like really, really spot on. And I do with buildings. I get things pretty spot on. I mean, actually, usually I do get it pretty, like, basically right. But I've also found that a lot of times it really doesn't, sometimes you can just cheat because it doesn't matter. So this white, now I actually don't mind that grayed out, because there's a shadow there. So that's, you know, because the thing about painting, and I've told this to every student I've ever had, is you already pretty much have the skills to paint. I mean, well, maybe not paint, but the skills are pretty easy. But like drawing, you already have the skills. If you can write your letters, you have the skills to draw, because it's just like anything you would ever draw, any angle or whatever, you pretty much do in your alphabet. It's just learning to see things, which most people can't actually see can't see things. Okay, boom. Let's see, get another one of these. Where are we on time? 23 minutes. I'm gonna I'm trying not to make these videos too long. Put these down. Hell, I don't know if anyone's even gonna watch them. Doesn't matter. And I used to do abstract cityscapes all the time in undergrad, and I learned so much doing those abstract paintings. Like, I learned so much about what I can get away with and what I can't, like in when I'm doing these windows and stuff, because like the reality is these are really just simple shapes, you know, and there's not much to them, you know? So, bring this window down. Oh, let's see. This is... Alright. Actually, I'm going to put some more windows in. Like, these go... That line should be like that. Alright. These are getting smaller. One. That, two. As long as I keep this line right, and that, boom, boom. See, I'm using my paintbrush to measure. Alright. And then put a big window here. See, I don't know that these windows are actually that much bigger than the ones above it. But we'll see. Okay, 26 minutes. All right, let's do, just real quickly put some stuff in before I take another break. I'm mixing more of this black, which the alizarin crimson, phthalo blue, cadmium yellow medium. That gets such a pretty black now. So down here goes like about there. Goes straight across. There's a little awning, so I'm gonna just put that in. And now that black actually turns to green. So I'm gonna use some of this. I'm gonna mix a little bit of the sap green in with that. Now you'll notice from my my palette, which I showed in the last video, that I do use green, whereas like basically my palette's set up in a color wheel. However, I use green, and done that because, like, now if I was going to paint something that actually had purple in it, like purple flower or something, I would probably use, I have magenta and I have dioxazine purple, and I think those are the only two that I use, and I would actually put those down because purple is, violet is basically impossible to mix, like in oil paints. Everybody always says you mix, blue and red mix violet, which, yes, that's true, but realistically it's not true at all, because you always are going to get like a gray, well, maybe not always, but almost always you're going to get gray or black or a very, I mean, it'll be purple, but it won't be to the same intensity that you actually would see it in nature. And green, yes, you can mix green, but this kind of the same thing happens. You won't get it to the same intensity that you actually would get it in actual nature. But green, now I'm using a soft brush here, and I am going to do, because that white actually looks slightly yellow, so I'm going to take just a teeny tiny bit of that cadmium yellow medium and mix it in with my yellow. Just give it just a teeny tiny little little bit of that tint, and then I will put that in because I want this yellow to be brighter. That goes boom, 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 boom. I had actually needed to pull this awning out further, because it actually goes here. Yeah, if it's not the intensity you want, you just add more paint. Maybe you just load your paint. The thing about oil paint, like, you can put any color on top of any other color, just keep adding it thicker. And if it really gets to the point, I'm going to take that kind of green black that I mixed, which probably is not really showing up so much for you, but if it really starts to get muddy, then you can just take a rag and wipe it off, or a paintbrush, like right here where that white keeps mixing in. I'm just gonna pick it up with a paintbrush, wipe it off, mix more green, and voila. And put it in, and there. That's good. And I think this is a good breaking point for on to the next video. So